Alright guys, so I got my boy Malvi here today, and I'm gonna be doing a skin fade with a textured crop. And I'm gonna just be showing y'all some simple skills on how to use a shear work to build that shape right here, to give it that square shape. And then my step-by-step process on how to do my fade work. So first, before I start most of my haircuts, I like to kind of quickly inspect his hair, just kind of comb it around, kind of see the way it naturally likes to go, locate the swirl in the back and kind of push it to where it naturally wants to lay. So right there you can see that swirl area. So I'm kind of just looking for its natural hair growth of how his hair wants to lay. So yeah, I have a pretty good idea of how his hair wants to section. Start actually sectioning it. And just keep in mind, the reason we section the sides off from the top is so that we can work in a more organized fashion. That way we don't have so much hair in our way from when we're doing our top shear work or for when we're doing our fade work. Everything's just nice and separated, and then you just kind of find a way to finally connect them. Now right here, I want to point out, just so y'all have an idea of what I'm about to do. Normally, a lot of like natural hair haircuts, we'll do the fade, and then we'll end up connecting all this hair with the shape of his head. So we'll like angle our finger straight out and we'll round it, and basically following a round shape. But for a crop, we want to build a strong corner right here. That way we can leave weight right here. That way when it comes down to styling the hair, you're able to kind of push this hair up and give you that crop fade effect. So since I had already kind of pre-sectioned it, it's already kind of sectioned right there. When I did it dry, kind of refine it a little bit. Before I section, remember, I always comb the hair in the direction that I am gonna section. That way it makes it easier to kind of guide the comb through that hair. Remember, we're always sectioning right in between where the head starts to round. I'm gonna go ahead and start basically setting in my foundation. Right here, I'm gonna cut the length that I want. Basically, since it's gonna be a skin fade, I'm gonna move my knuckles all the way up to the skin, to his scalp, I mean. So as you can see, if I bring it here to this front angle, when I comb down, my knuckles are all the way to his skin. And it's basically right under where the head starts to round. Since we wanna build that weight right here, I'm combing that to my fingers, and that's where I'm gonna start cutting. Go straight back right here. Then once I get to behind the ear, I'm gonna start kind of slanting this line so that we can give that somewhat, basically so we can contour more of the head shape. We're aiming towards his occipital bone. And now before I basically trim the top, I'm gonna go ahead and quickly debulk a lot of this weight right here. So for that, I'm gonna quickly just grab my 3 guard with the lever fully open. And I'm basically just gonna debulk up onto that weight line that we left right here. Remember, as I reach that faint line, this bulk line that we left, we don't wanna cut into it because we wanna keep this shape. We're basically just gonna kind of flare out. Take off these clips and I'm gonna start. We'll re-wet the hair. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is basically just part it down the middle and I'm gonna connect this top right here to the sides. That way we don't have no overhang on this hairstyle. And if you feel like this is too much hair, honestly guys, you don't need to like part it down the middle. You could take it a section at a time. Basically like 2-3 sections. I could start with just this section right here. But since we want to preserve length here, what I'm gonna do, the less sections you use, the easier it'll be for you to see your the before guide basically. Where you see right there under it, you can see the dark line. I'm gonna just basically match that. But as soon as I get to the ear, I'm not gonna follow that line so much. I'm gonna basically bring my line out because I wanna leave length right here in this forehead. Do another section. And do the same thing. Front of the ear, we're just gonna bring our line out. And trim that. Then our last section, down the middle. And just repeat. Now for this side, I'm gonna just show y'all how it would look if I just did it all down the middle. Right there, you just find that, the darker hair on the bottom. And we're just connecting to that. Get to the ear, and I'm gonna start bringing that line outward so we can leave length in the front. Now here in the front for this textured crop, what I'm gonna do is basically he wants his lineup to be right over his tattoos. I'll go ahead and grab my razor. And I'm gonna just feather this front hair out. So yeah, if y'all are scared to use the razor like that by itself, I recommend purchasing like a feather razor. They have these finger ones that have that kind of little safety guard so that you're not using an exposed blade. But if you are confident, all you gotta do is just grab your line and then just gradually just cut it. And basically I'm just matching up to the side line that we left all around. But now that we've established that, basically we're gonna use this as a guide to know how much to cut off the top. I'm gonna show you how I do that. Just comb everything back to the front. And also remember, first we had split it right here where it naturally wanted to lay. But since I also want to connect to this length, what I'm gonna do is grab about a 1/2 inch of that hair as well. So now we're just connecting that front hairline to this right here. So here's what I'm gonna do is pull out my profile section about a comb's width right between his eyebrows. Starting from that back. Remember, we want to leave that length in the front. So we're basically gonna look for the shortest, most longest piece. All these hairs that are just falling, you're gonna let them keep falling. You're looking for the shortest, most longest piece. So right there, if you can see, this is still covering, so we're not gonna take off any more length. Now we're just matching that length to the rest. I'm also just point cutting just to kind of start giving it that textured top. And we're just gonna keep going until we find that back length to match up to. Should be right here somewhere. So that small hair and then this small hair is what we're gonna connect. Now that we have cut out our length from right there, all that's left to do is match these two panels right here to that length. So as you see here, I'm gonna first comb it all off to this side and start with the right side first. And I'm just pulling about a finger section moving forward until we reach the front. But here, since I also, like I said, remember in the beginning, I didn't want to, basically I'm not gonna pick up his hair and follow the shape of his head. I wanna keep that strong square triangle right here. Basically we're building like a triangle. So it's like a square shape. So what I'm gonna do is make sure I pick up my fingers straight until I find that short piece right there, and that's what I'm gonna match up to. So just notice my fingers are straight. They're not following the shape of his head. And then when I'm point cutting, guys, all I'm doing is angling my scissors at about 45 degrees and just cutting little triangles as opposed to a straight line like that. That way we kind of give that little soft finish on the exterior of the hair. Now what I'm gonna do, since I'm done with this side, now we're gonna connect this side. Again, comb everything. Basically just part down the middle again. Remember, we're grabbing a little bit of that profile section so that we have a guide to reference to. Start again from the back. See your short hairs are right there. We're just gonna connect. Remember, just keep your fingers straight out because we're building a square. But that's pretty much it for the shear work. So now I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry the top, get it really dry so we can start doing our fade on the sides. All right, so we're pretty much done with the top fade. As you can see here, we still have that weight line right here that we're gonna fade into. Towards the end, I'll go ahead and start softening it up as I basically just look at the style come together. So I'm gonna keep debulking though here so I can set in my first bald guideline. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my 1.5 guard and I'm gonna keep that lever fully open and just continue basically just debulking. Remember, when you debulk, all you're doing is making way so that you could better see your guidelines. For example, right here, if I set in my bald guideline, I'll be able to better see it as opposed to back here. Say I put in a bald guideline, you have too much hair hanging over that you can't really see your guidelines, if that makes sense. See, there's a lot of hair hanging over, so it's gonna be easier when you shorten that hair so that you can better see your guidelines. All right, guys, so yeah, just keep in mind that when you have that weight line right here, you know that you only have this much space to fade. So you gotta create your guidelines according to that. So for this, I do wanna do a drop fade. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start right here towards the back. Me, technically, I always like to separate my fades. I'll basically just start with the back, or I'll start on one side and then work on the back, or vice versa. It's all preference, but as a beginner, I do recommend that if you do choose to go that route, at least you set in your first guideline all the way around. That way you're not guessing as to where to set in that guideline and making sure that it's gonna match or whatever. Or whatever. And I'm basically just making sure that this line follows this line. So see, like from here, I would normally just start fading the back. But like I said, for this tutorial, I want to show y'all that as a beginner, at least do the first full line. That way you're not lost or having to guess where to put basically the connection. So here, I'm gonna just go ahead and start fading out the back. I'm gonna go ahead and open the lever all the way. And then just come up about a finger, and anywhere between a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch high. All you're doing is making sure that these lines run parallel to each other. All right, so next I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the 1 guard. lever fully open. And again, same thing, I'm gonna imitate the previous line up a little higher. Remember, as you start getting closer to this line, you wanna start making that, this line a little more compressed. Next, I'm grabbing the 1.5 guard, still lever fully open. And I'm gonna start, basically, I'm not focusing on setting in another guideline. I'm trying to basically start blending into this little weight that we have here. So I'm just coming up about 1/4 inch.
Are you using the corner?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm using just more so these 3 teeth of the guard. That's what I'm laying down. Even though it may look like I'm using the whole clipper sometimes, I'm always leaning one side more than the other when I'm blending out these guidelines. It basically allows you to like put in more pressure on the clipper when you angle it. And a lot of times, don't be discouraged if you don't see the line coming out right away. Sometimes it takes a little work. You got to kind of keep working at it, comb the hair out, make sure that the hair is being cut, and then just keep working at it. Remember, last time we used the number 3 guard with the lever open to debulk right there. So I'm basically just gonna try to connect to that already right here with the 2 guard, lever fully open. Same thing, I'm kind of just leaning in one side of the clipper to it. Now I'll worry about blending in this later. Right now I'm just focusing on finishing the fade right here down on the bottom. Now his hair is a little more light, so sometimes it can be a little harder to see these guidelines. That's why it's important that you kind of keep memory of where you set them in, and then with time you'll be able to just kind of know where they're at. But in the beginning, that's why it's important that you take your time with setting in these guidelines so that you can kind of be aware of where they're at and you get a better idea of how they look and you remember what guard number that was. So right here, I'm gonna go ahead and use the half guard, lever at 3/4, basically just closing it a little bit. And I'm gonna start working on this top line. We have the 2 guidelines right here, one on top, one at the bottom. I'm gonna start focusing on blending out the top one. And all I'm doing is crossing that line, guys. I'm only going up and down about 1/4 inch in space, starting right before the line and then finishing right above it. I'm not starting from the line, if that makes sense. I'm starting right before it and then just crossing it. Again, using the corner of the clipper. And then just keep going over that area until you start seeing that blend just soften up, or that line soften up. Just kind of keep following it. And then just work in small spaces at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. Keep note that I'm always turning off my clipper before I turn him and start working on the other section. I notice a lot of people always tend to say, like, how do you work without getting your tool so hot? And that's a good tip and a good habit that you need to build, is always getting comfortable turning off your clipper when you're not using it. Because a lot of people, they'll be working here and they'll leave it on, turn them, keep working, leave it on, and that's just gonna get your clipper hot, and basically you're gonna use up that battery a lot faster. So Make sure, see I was done right there. Turn it off, turn them, assess where I gotta keep blending, and then continue. Turn it off, turn them, and then continue. Look for your guide, and then continue. Next, if you notice, that half guard didn't completely blend out, that top guideline, it's gonna take me 2 guards. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the 1 guard, and I'm gonna still leave that lever at the 3/4 position. I'm not moving anything, and I'm doing the exact same thing, going the other way until that top line is blended out.
Where are you looking at that you see that it's not blended out?
Can you see on the camera? If you could see right there, you'll be able to see those dark areas.
Oh, okay.
Can you kind of see it?
Yeah, I see what you're
Basically, I mean, you should always keep in mind the end result. You should always have the end result in your mind. So if you have an idea of how you want your fade to look, basically always pull out that picture. That's what I used to do. I used to always have a picture in mind when I was first beginning. I would have a picture of what was a perfect fade to me. And every haircut I do, I'm basically just aiming for that target. I'm just making it look just like that fade.
You basically keep a picture of one of my haircuts.
But yeah, so you can't see that, Danny? Are you able?
Yeah,
Are you see that?
Yeah,
it's like a little dark right there. I'm just softening it up.
Yeah, because at first I was trying to figure out what did you notice? You know?
Yeah.
But I see
Yeah.
it now that I know what I'm looking at.
Just tell him to give you the picture of my haircuts that he used to keep.
Yeah, the same.
And even though I still feel like I could still blend a little higher, I'm only gonna stay right there, guys. I don't wanna keep focusing on blending, like moving my lever and changing guards to keep blending. I'm just gonna run through my whole entire steps, and then at the end, we'll do any touch-up work if needed.
I did the touch up right after, and that's how I messed up. Not even taking the line higher.
Yeah, so dude, it's weird. Sometimes it's a good idea to just go through the steps, finish everything, and then come back and do the touch-ups, because sometimes you'll notice that those touch-ups that you initially thought you needed, you won't need them anymore. It's weird. It's funny how like the haircut just kind of has a way of coming together in the end, even though you think it needed work. It's weird.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like,
So now we have this last line to blend out. Remember, we set in that first guideline with the lever fully closed. So now what I'm gonna do is open it about a quarter way, and I'm gonna start blending. I'm gonna start focusing on a section at a time. I like to break down my lines in sections. So I'll work right here, and then I'll work in the middle, and then on the other side until that line is blended out. And again, guys, we're starting right before it and then finishing right above it. We're just moving up and down, crossing that line. So next, I'm gonna open that lever to 3/4, continue blending a little bit higher. And little by little, as the higher you go on that line, you should see it being less and less that you need to fade out. Next, I just open it all the way and finish just connecting that line. Once I'm satisfied on one spot, I'm gonna move on to the next spot. Again, starting with it a quarter ways open. Three-fourths open. Move up a little higher. and then fully open to finish taking out whatever is left. And then just continue the process. All right, now that I'm done with that back side, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with either side. I'm gonna start with this left side first. Again, starting with the lever fully open. And since I feel like here it starts getting a little more narrow, we had more space in the back. So I'm gonna start making these guidelines a little bit smaller than from what I was in the back. And it's the exact same steps, guys. Now I'm grabbing the one guard, lever fully open, come up about another 1/4 inch. I notice his hair kind of goes this way, so I'm kind of using my clipper against it to better help cut that hair. Using the 1.5 guard, lever fully open, continue the process. Remember, I'm pushing this corner of the clipper into the head to better help me blend out. Then I'll just use my last guard, the 2 guard, to finish connecting to that 3. So now we have these 2 guidelines to blend out. You should see that little top faint line, and then that bottom one's even more faint. So I'm gonna start with that top one again, the 1/2 guard at 3/4. Next, that one guard still at 3/4 to finish blending out that bulk that you see right there. And at the same time, guys, keep in mind that you can't just depend solely on just the clipper to blend out these lines. You can't just, I'm not there just kind of laying down the clipper and letting the clipper do the fading. You also got to kind of use your intuition to kind of flare that guard out to better help the clipper fade out these lines, if that makes sense. See, I still feel like that area right there I can work on a little more, but like I said, I don't want to keep messing with different guard and lever positions right now. I just want to kind of run through the whole process entirely, and then I'll come back and do that touch-up work. So now I'm gonna start focusing on this first guideline. Again, just open it about a quarter ways, focus on one section at a time. Start right here, right behind the ear. Then I open it 3/4, move up a little higher. Then just open it completely to finish connecting that line. Once I'm done here, I'm gonna go ahead and just repeat the process on the opposite side, on our final side. Again, lever fully open. One guard open. Half guard open. And then the 2 guard. Still lever open. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my brush, make sure I brush off any loose hair that was already cut so I could better see my guidelines. And now again, we have our 2 guidelines to blend out, starting with the top one, half guard lever at 3/4. The one guard still lever at 3/4 and continue blending that top line. Then we have our last line, again, quarter way open. Continue blending and working on the initial start of that line. Open it to 3/4, keep going up a little bit higher. And then open it fully to finish blending in that line. And just repeat the process. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I don't want to continue doing any touch-up work yet. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the fade completely before I do that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my trimmer and start taking out the bottom of the hair. And then notice that I'm starting off by taking out the top part of the bottom of the hair. I'll show y'all right now why I do that. That's one reason I like to start with the zero, guys, first. Because a lot of times when you start with the trimmer, it's kind of harder to blend out, especially for a lot of beginners, to blend out a sub-zero line than it is a zero line. So see here, it's kind of easier to just, it gradually just, or naturally just fades into that zero line. Just using the corner as if I'm fading into it. But before I reach that top part, I like to kind of flare out a little bit. And that's gonna create another soft guideline. And that's gonna serve us as a guideline so that we can know how high to come up with our electric shaver. That way we don't have to guess and potentially set in more hard lines into the fade again. I know his hair is kind of light, but you should be able to see a faint line. And that's gonna be our guideline that I was talking about. So now I'll grab my electric shaver and then just basically use it up until that faint line. Sometimes I'll use the corner of the shaver too, as if they were a pair of clippers, and then just lightly use it right there at that top. And then on the bottom, I'll kind of press a little harder to really get it down to the skin. So again, I use the corner of it right on top so I'm light with it and I'm not creating any hard lines. And then on the bottom, I'll start actually pressing down a little more firm so we can get it really as close to the skin as possible. And I also like to use my fingers. Make sure you're going against the grain so that you really get it down even and smooth as possible. Fade is pretty much done. Now I'm gonna go back and kind of really assess it and just kind of determine if I want to do any touch-up work. I am gonna do some touch-up work because I did notice some spots were a little dark, like for example right here and in these areas. And I'm gonna just focus on this side first before I move forward and kind of touch up the back and the opposite side. So for right here, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the 1 guard. Lever fully open and kind of just detail it out using the corner of the clipper. At this point, it's kind of like I'm sculpting the fade in. Just refining any little details to get that fade as smooth as possible. At this point is when I'm usually kind of utilizing my mirror a lot. I'll have it across from me and I'm always kind of looking at it and then kind of pointing his fade into that direction so I can kind of better see from a further distance what areas need to be touched up. And if you're in doubt with what guard it is in the beginning, you might not be familiar. Me, I've been cutting hair for 15 years plus, so I kind of already know or have a good idea of what each lever position will cut as well as with what each guard will cut. So, but if you're in doubt, always start with the number that you know won't cut and then kind of work a little process of elimination and work your way down until you actually see some fading being done. So here in this little dark area, I know this is around the space where I was blending out that second guideline, which I used the 1/2 guard and the 1 guard. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that 1/2 guard again at 3/4 and start working that little dark area out. Remember, everybody's always gonna have different places where you need to do touch-up work because everybody's head and scalp is shaped differently. Some people have small little indents in their head that kind of help basically it makes it look like there's dark areas in that spot. But every head is always gonna differ. So back here, I'm gonna go ahead and it's a little bit on the higher spot. So I know that's where I was around with my 1 guard lever fully open or my 1.5 guard lever open. So I'm gonna start with the 1 guard lever fully open and just slowly start working at that dark area. For example, if you feel like it's cutting a little too much up here, then go ahead and stop and grab a higher guard and use that one. That's why it is important that you get familiar with where you're setting in these guidelines, and it'll help you make better judgment as to what guards you need for what areas in the fade. Now on any other areas that were right here in the back, it's more so in the back, but I'm gonna use clipper over comb. Remember, I wanna keep that shape. I don't wanna move my comb in straight up because that would take off all that weight that we had left behind purposely in the beginning. So I'm basically just sculpting it out and just softening up that edge. Now here's where I'm gonna start utilizing my thinning shears to help soften up this ridge right here. Now that the hair is dry, I'm gonna pull out a section from the back, starting from the back. And I'm gonna basically do some deep point cutting. So you see, I didn't do it real fine. I did it like more like creating these peaks and valleys to bring out more texture. I'm coming up about halfway up from his hair length. Head up a little bit. You see right there?
Yeah. Is there a reason you're only coming up from halfway and not all the way from the scalp?
I mean, I've noticed right there that that's kind of like a good space to like add texture. If you go too low, you'll end up just having a lot of these hairs that are just poking out because they're too short, and it's gonna have like frizz sticking out.
How do you cut texture? Like, how do you
Like that? Just triangles?
just at an angle like that?
Yeah, 45 degrees, and I'm just basically cutting in little triangles. If you wanted to remove weight, say it's like real thick hair and you want to just remove weight, you would pick it up a little more. You know what I'm saying, like that. Remember, when I'm adding the texture, make sure that you're still picking up your line in that square fashion. You don't want to go like this and get rid of this corner because you end up taking off too much length from those corners that we built. All right, guys, so like since we want to add a little more volume to the top, what I'm gonna do is first dampen his hair a little bit before I apply the product. And that's gonna basically help us dry the product into the hair so we can mold the hair into whatever style we're looking for. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and grab about a dime size amount of product. I always like to start with less, and then if needed, I'll add more because you can't really take away the product unless you shampoo the hair and everything. That's an important thing too, is I really want to work the product down into the root, not just on top, because if you just lay it on top, it's just going to weigh the hair down. So you really want to work it into the root of his hair. So here I'm going to go ahead and start with kind of like medium speed and low heat to start really drying the hair. And as I'm drying it, I'm using my hands to kind of just scrunch it, kind of help bring out the texture. And slowly you'll start to see that volume come out into the style. Remember, since we were able to leave all that weight right here, we're actually able to manipulate this side hair more, because if we would have cut it too short and followed the shape of his head, it would have been too short and it would have just laid down. But now that we have length, we're actually able to kind of create some shape into the top style. And once I'm about 98% dry, I'll switch my setting to cold, and then I'll put it on low heat, because I don't really want to start pushing the hair into any particular direction anymore. I'm just kind of trying to freeze it into place already. And if you don't have a diffuser, you could just basically put it on the low setting, like I said, and then just hold the blow dryer further away so that it's not pushing it into any direction. And that way you could just kind of sculpt the hair into whatever style you're looking for. And once you have that cold setting in, you'll start noticing that it's gonna start really getting it more stiff and locking that style into place. And to really lock in the style, you can even apply some hairspray. But I won't apply it like really close like that. I'll kind of just let the mist fall in. Kind of lock the style into place. All right guys, but that's pretty much it for this textured crop on top with a skin fade at the bottom. I hope y'all enjoyed it and were able to learn something from it. Again, if y'all have any questions in regards to this video, just let us know. Again, I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video.